The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Thursday, the 15th of August. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Corey Tackman on the other side of the screen. And Corey, we got some big news with our local sports scene because we have officially dropped, hot off the presses, the 2024 sports broadcast schedule on our Hubbard Radio-Wadena stations, the Superstation K106, KWAD, and KNSP The Fan. Corey, it gets closer. We're just one step closer to that sports season kicking off.
Yeah, I was kind of thumbing through it a little earlier this morning. It looks like you've got Twins on there. You've got, obviously, our fall sports, football, and volleyball coverage. And before that, a little state amateur baseball has crept its way into the broadcast schedule as well. And I know not only did you get it out kind of internally to everybody, but it is up and on the website, WadenaRadio.com. You'll be able to find our plan for the entire fall, which is that's weird. Weird we're talking about it like this.
Yeah, 2 weeks away from the first football broadcast of the 2024 calendar. We are less than 2 weeks away, 11 days from the sports season, 12 days, I should say, from the sports season kicking off locally on August 27th. We kick things off East Grand Forks at Wadena Deer Creek volleyball, and the defending Section 8 AA champions are going up against the team they beat in the semifinals to get to the state tournament in East Grand Forks, the Green Wave. That'll be a fun a matchup to kick off the regular season for the Wolverines and for our volleyball coverage. And then on Thursday, Corey, you get back in the saddle to do your first game of the season, which will be Wadena Deer Creek and Perham at the WDC Gymnasium in a rematch of the Section 8 AA championship game. And that should be a fun one too.
And what a way to start the year, right? You're talking about a team that was in a state tournament a year ago. So we're kicking off the season with a team trying to defend a title run against two of the teams that were at the very end of that run to get to a state tournament. So, yeah, just about a picture perfect way to get a fall sports broadcast rolling.
Yeah, we have Tyler Grunwald. He's going to be back in doing a majority of the Staples Motley football games this season. They're expected to have a really nice team. That's going to be fun. We're following the Wadena Deer Creek Wolverines all season long for football as well. And I've already had one initial conversation with head coach Kyle Petermeyer, and he's excited about some of the things that they are getting ready to do this season. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, Corey, we have the regional game of the week, which you're going to be kind of bouncing around doing a lot of different games for teams across the region. And I think, without getting in too much of it, it's just going to be another fun year of volleyball across central Minnesota.
They do volleyball pretty good around here, and I'm very lucky. I consider myself very lucky to be a part of that all the time. I've said this many times before, but it's always, you get to this new volleyball season, and I grew up. My high school had good volleyball when I was in high school. The conference was very good. In the conference, my junior year, there were 2 Division I volleyball players and I think 3 Division II volleyball players.
Dang.
And those Division II players went to the NSIC.
A great volleyball conference.
And I did not go to a big school, right? I graduated a school the same size as a Perham, a Wadena Deer Creek, a Staples Motley. We had a little under 100 kids in our class. So I got very lucky to be able to watch some unbelievable volleyball growing up and in the conference. And then, like you, I went to a college in the NSIC, which is the best Division II volleyball program or volleyball conference in the country. Yeah. I think you could probably argue it's just the best conference bar none in the country for volleyball, regardless of division. But the other one you would argue is probably the Big Ten.
The Big Ten has to. Yeah.
And I'm a huge Gopher fan. So I've just been very lucky to be surrounded by good volleyball my entire life. And I'm thrilled just from my own personal annoyance levels that I get to spend most of my time in a very good part of the state for volleyball yet again. We get to see a lot in the PRC, generally speaking, is what we're talking about, but branching out to mid-state or whatever the new iteration of mid-state and things look like every single fall. It's I just love the sport, so it's exciting that it's around the corner again, even if I'm in denial about it.
It's going to be so much fun to get to do this all again. I'm like, there's sometimes where all of a sudden fall sports creep around and you're just not ready for it. You know what I mean? Like, you're just not ready for the busyness again. And you're not just like you're ready to do it, but it's like, okay, got to psych yourself up for it a little bit. Not this fall. I feel like there's just an excitement about some stuff this fall that it's going to be fun. I'm ready to get this broadcast season underway and to get the headset back on and call some games and get to go around, like you talked about, central Minnesota, whether it's for football or volleyball, and call some great games. It's going to be a lot of fun. So again, you can check out that broadcast schedule on our website, WadenaRadio.com. You can also check it out on the Superstation K106 mobile app that you can download off the App Store, off the Google Play Store, wherever you find your apps, wherever apps are sold. And go check it out and see where we're going to be. We have what station the game will be on, and you can be ready for that. So here we go, I think, is pretty much just the best way to word it. I know we've kind of been talking a little more high school football, a little more high school volleyball as this has gotten closer, and we are T-minus 2 weeks away from getting into the full swing of things.
Perham New York Mills and Staples Motley girls tennis are playing today. So if you're wondering about if it feels like it's close, fall sports, that's because it's happening. It's actually, they're playing real live matches against real live other teams and real live opponents. Fall sports is here officially.
Fall sports is here. It's awesome, awesome, awesome to see. All right, Corey, now that we've spent this time building up optimism and talking about how great things are going to be and all that, we're excited for the local sports scene. And I think one of the other reasons is because, like when you look at the Golden Gopher football team, there's some question marks, and they'll probably win 6-7 games, make another bowl game, whatever. They are what they're going to be. But then to the Minnesota Vikings, there was a season of intrigue this year, and 2 new quarterbacks, a brand new defense. There's just so many things that got you optimistic. And on Monday or Tuesday show rather, we talked about, hey man, JJ McCarthy did some, he didn't light the world on fire, but he showed you just enough to go, I want to see more from this kid. And there might be something there. Let's see what there is. And the football gods laughed in our faces because JJ McCarthy, as we talked about on Tuesday, had a meniscus issue. He was going to need surgery, and they were going to have to go in under the knife and see how bad the knee was before they could give a timeline on when he's going to be healthy. And Corey, wouldn't you know it, JJ McCarthy is going to miss the rest of the 2024 season before it even began. He's out for the year with the meniscus injury.
Can I give you a rundown of the last 5 weeks of the Minnesota Vikings?
Yes, please do, because I have another rundown after that.
Rookie cornerback dies. Starting wide receiver gets DUI.
Mm-hmm.
Starting cornerback tears ACL first day of practice. Other starting corner gets hurt second day. First round quarterback tears meniscus out for season. The wide receiver who gets caught with a DUI carted off the practice field. That's the first 5 weeks of this Minnesota Vikings season. Not off to a rousing start. What is interesting, though, I think you used the word intrigue. There's a lot of intrigue on this season with the 2 new quarterbacks. And while that's true, and while it's disappointing that some of the intrigue goes away, Sam Darnold is and was going to be the starting quarterback.
Right.
They have never hinted even once that it could be JJ McCarthy. They've never hinted that there's a quarterback controversy, that it's a battle for that starting spot. It was always going to be Sam Darnold.
Right.
So if we can remove ourselves a little bit from the disappointing nature of your rookie high draft pick being out for the season, he's not Anthony Richardson. They were not counting on him to start game 1. he's going to miss out on a lot of time. He's going to miss on some very important reps, all of which were going to be key for his growth. And I'm not discrediting how important that is. And it stinks that that's the case. And it stinks that if Sam Darnold gets hurt, we got to rely on this Mullins character now. And like, congrats, Jaron Hall, you've officially made the roster. These sorts of things, that part does stink. But I don't think they had any intentions of playing JJ McCarthy any more than absolute necessity. It was going to be Sam Darnold's job. So once we can remove ourselves from this, and we might not feel it for another week, it's actually like, it's weirdly, the situation is not dire.
Right. It's not Teddy Bridgewater tearing his ACL and that knee injury where it's like you were counting on Teddy. The team was ascending. It felt like you were ready to take a big leap. And even though Sam Bradford came in and played well, it was still just like, it was just a cobbled together last minute, we have to do this kind of thing. I will be positive with you. Like I do have a thing to turn this on, but first I need to just do a little bit of venting, a little bit of a therapy session here, Corey.
By the way, this side of it 100% exists in my brain. I'm just trying to remain, just like we couldn't jump to conclusions. I was insistent upon after that first game, right? That's not what this is for. The same thing also exists here. I'm just trying to remain, I'm trying to maintain my integrity on those points.
You're doing your very best. And look, here's a stat that I have to kind of piggyback on what you said earlier. In 2016, Teddy Bridgewater, again, 30-year quarterback ready to take the big leap, suffers serious non-contact knee injury before the start of the regular season. His career never the same. 2023, Kirk Cousins ruptures his Achilles in week 8. And in 2024, first-round rookie QB JJ McCarthy suffers meniscus injury in first preseason game, requires surgery, and ends his rookie season. I mean, come on. There can't just be one, like, this is my venting session. There can't just be one thing. Like, come on. This was going to be like, I know McCarthy wasn't expected to play, but there's a chance by like week 10, week 12, you could have ended the season when they're already out of playoff contention and like had a little bit of like, all right, let's ascend with this new quarterback. Let's feel some momentum building. And internally, like you talked about, Corey, I understand he's going to come back. He's going to do all that stuff in the offseason. It's not going to derail his career. But just from a fan morale standpoint, and you talked about all this other stuff, come on. I try my best, my very best. And we talk about this on the sports desk, off the sports desk. I try my best to stay away from the cliche, typical Minnesota sports, typical Minnesota Vikings. Like, I try and stay away from that as far as I can, because like every team has injuries. Every team has all this other stuff. Like the Vikings aren't the only team in the NFL. Every other team has agency. Every other fan base has agency. But come on, you just get one nice thing. I just want one thing. I want one thing. I don't know. We traded 20 plus years of bad Timberwolves teams to get 2 NFC championship game runs in that span. And 1 Wolves Western Conference Finals team means we need to sacrifice JJ McCarthy. Is that, am I understanding the math here?
Yes, that is, you are understanding it. And once again, I will talk you off the ledge. JJ McCarthy is not our starting quarterback. He's the fun new shiny thing, but you're 15 years old and you don't have your driver's license yet, and your parents bought you the car, but you're not old enough. Like, that car's for you in a year. You're not taking the car. You're not old enough. Like, it's just not for you yet. That's what this JJ McCarthy thing is. So it's just an impatience thing. More, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And also, I will say about that tweet that you showed about, it's not like Kirk Cousins wasn't the quarterback for 7 years prior to his Achilles. And there, you know, like there have been some like smoother seas amongst the dilemma, but when you add it all on, like, it still is just, I mean, you could go back to,
Dante Culpepper,
Randall Cunningham, Jeff George, Brad Johnson. I mean, There's a Christian Ponder, Tavares Jackson, Joe Webb. There are a million starting quarterbacks from 1990 to 2024 for the Minnesota Vikings. And even though we know JJ McCarthy is going to be the next one, we all know that the goal for this was hopefully Sam Darnold's title turned into an interim role rather than now this is potentially 2 years of Sam Darnold now, which might be okay too. But it's weird. It's weird to put all of your eggs in the Sam Darnold basket, considering how his career has gone.
Have you seen, this has been going around on Twitter recently, but the caption of I've become important at work and it's ruining my life. And that's basically, I've accidentally become important at work and it's ruining my life. That's Sam Darnold. Like he just stumbled into like, all right, man, like 17 games. We need you. Go. Not like 6 and let's see what happens.
Well, there's this beautiful thing too that if I can a cross sport reference, a few years ago, the Twins had 3 catchers in their stall, right? Mm-hmm. Who all were hitting the snot out of the ball that year, right? It was Garver and it was Jimenez, and then Astudillo would show up and even though he wasn't a great catcher necessarily, like he just kept putting the ball in play. And one of the things that led to that Twin season being great was how good the catcher spot was at the plate. And they all had each other's back, but they all pushed each other, because if you were going to suck, there were 2 more guys who were there to push you. So one of the things with this now Vikings quarterback stable is that Sam Darnold is playing for his career. It was a 1-year deal with the Vikings. He's playing for his career. He's going to have JJ McCarthy pushing him. He can also take on this leadership role of helping JJ McCarthy become a pro, and what that means, while also having the guy that is going to take his job at some point, probably sooner than later. And now that is off the table. And not have, like, Mullins is not a starting quarterback. He's not the starting quarterback. He's never going to, you know what? Like, all of a sudden that competition, that guy pushing him, not that the guy's going to be complacent. He's bounced all around. He's worked really hard, seemingly, to succeed at all the places he's been to. He hasn't seen a lot of success. But it's sometimes nice to have that guy, to have that backup there pushing you to try to, like, I got to play well, because the second I don't play well, he's taking my job. And the sooner he takes my job, the less of a chance I ever have to get another job again. So I don't like the unintended potential, like, complacency that could come from this. Complacency is too strong of a word, but I think you understand what I mean.
Right, exactly. And even if it's not, like, even if it's implicit, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be like Sam Darnold intentionally going, well, I got my starting job secure, but it's just in the back of your mind, like,
he's comfortable. It's like, okay, this is my job now. There's nobody here. It's just mine, period.
Right. It's all set up like that. And, you know, like you talked about, if the Vikings have to rely on Nick Mullins' chaos ball at any point in the season, it's what the name suggests. You're just going to get chaos ball, as we learned.
We'd all rather have JJ McCarthy throw panic interceptions than Mullins throw panic interceptions.
Right.
Because at least it would feel like hopefully McCarthy's learning.
Yeah. Nick Mullins is like, what if we had the modern Brett Favre, but without the one-of-one arm talent of Brett Favre? What if we had a guy who's just willing to throw it anywhere, except he didn't have a generationally great arm?
Yes.
What if we did that?
Carson Wentz, I mean, there's a million of them. Will Levis is probably turning out like,
right.
Levis got unbelievable. I'm like, just could you chill out just a little bit, dude?
And Peterman, you know, like. But there is, Corey, you used a cross-sport example with the Twins. How about an NFL example from a year ago? The Indianapolis Colts had Anthony Richardson go down by like week 3, and they had Gardner Minshew playing meaningful football games for that team. They were a win away from being the NFC or the AFC South champions. That team knocked on the door of a postseason berth, and it's not a 1-to-1 comparison to where the Vikings are at, but in terms of your rookie quarterback that you drafted top 10 goes down, Now you have, they had Gardner Minshew, who, I mean, is more established than Sam Darnold, at least.
He'll be the Raiders starting QB by the end of the year.
Right. If he won't be named that week 1, like that guy is found himself to be like a journeyman, like new Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of vibe. Yeah. But like the point is he can show up. Sam Darnold is, I think Minshew's probably better than him just because we've seen more of him, but also they're about the same, like in terms of talent level. The Vikings have a much better offensive situation than the Colts do. And I think because there's a lot of people that go, all right, well now the Vikings should just tank for that number 1 or for like that top 5 pick. But like if JJ McCarthy was never planning to really play this season anyways, this team is not tanking. The Wilfs made it explicitly clear they expect to win this season. Like,
and it like, so is Kwesi and so is Kevin. This is like organizational.
Coaches don't want to tank because coaches that tank get fired.
There's a lot of comparisons being made right now to, could Sam Darnold thing be the same as Baker Mayfield kind of resurrecting when he was with the Rams?
Mm-hmm.
Is this
Buccaneers, you mean?
Well, but he did
a 3-game stretch,
right? Where it was like, oh, he can still do this. And that gave him the opportunity with the Buccaneers and life kind of continued then. For Baker Mayfield's going to be in the league for he's going to be in our lives for another decade. Can this be that year for Sam Darnold? That is the conversation that comes up a lot. And I'm obviously hopeful, like everyone else is. But one of the points in all of this too is that like Baker Mayfield was highly touted out of college, like Sam Darnold, but had a shockingly good rookie season. And Sam Darnold has never had a shockingly good season. He's had not only bad, but people are like, I cannot believe how bad this is. Those are the kinds of seasons Sam Darnold has. So if that resurrection season is upon us for Sam Darnold with the Minnesota Vikings, this will be a bigger kind of uprising of talent than the Baker Mayfield thing ever was. Because Sam Darnold he's had 6-game stretches with Carolina to start the season that were like, oh, this is kind of fun, but it's been a pretty miserable existence.
Yeah. And he's got a chance, like you talked about, to turn it around. And it's not that he's going to be fixed and he's going to be the top 3 draft pick that everybody expected him to be. But yeah, I think a Baker Mayfield Baker Mayfield is not the number 1 overall pick everyone kind of thought he was going to be, but also can he be a guy that can take a good roster and can he drive the bus and not crash it? For the most part, yeah. I mean, I think that's in play. Sam Darnold's going to throw 1 to 2 interceptions a game where you just go, oh, why? But also he's going to make some throws to Justin Jefferson that you're going to go, oh yeah, like Kirk would have made that throw. You know what I mean? Like where it's like this offense won't miss a beat. And again, on the gut punch is Jordan Addison hurt his leg in practice yesterday. So who knows how long he's going to be out. He was carted off. Kevin O'Connell said nothing serious, but he also said the same thing about JJ McCarthy's injury. So is that the kiss of death? Is that just him trying to be like, I don't know, man, get off my back right now? Either way, all of this calamity is going to be really fun for Kevin O'Connell's PowerPoint of all the things he's had to endure that he's going to show the team weeks before he gets fired sometime in the future, like Mike Zimmer did. You ever remember that story? Like a month before Mike Zimmer got fired, he showed the team like a PowerPoint of all the things he had to deal with as head coach, like his eye, Adrian Peterson suspension, like all of these different things. So Kevin O'Connell, he's starting to build his own list here.
Yeah. Congratulations. Welcome to being the head coach.
Welcome to being the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. Congratulations. You are set up for success. But I think overall, really, it stinks. It's really bad just from a vibes standpoint. But in like a couple weeks, once we get really close towards the regular season, which by the way, we're still like 25 days from the regular season. We are nowhere close to actual football games being played. So that's a lot of time for us to forget about JJ McCarthy. I mean, like a month after Kirk Cousins, not even like 3 weeks after Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles, were we really talking about Kirk anymore? Like he just
Well, I mean, they bring in rocket scientist man who goes absolutely ballistic, and then let you immediately forget about everything because
right.
was so that was just a circus in town. But yeah, you're right. It'll be the same thing, and nobody pays as much attention during this preseason. So like, it's not like we were hearing every single day stories of lore about JJ McCarthy.
Right. It's not like it's like he was dicing up practice. Sam Darnold, like it'd be one thing if this guy was on a track to start week 1, and maybe he would have been. Maybe the preseason game would have been the little spark, and maybe he would have kept building and building and building. But I feel like the Vikings were going to be patient with McCarthy anyways. Whether it's the fact that he's not ready talent-wise, or whether it was like we want him to go through a few weeks of watching Sam Darnold prep in the meeting rooms and like film sessions and all that, getting ready for an opponent. Like all of that he wasn't going to start week 1 anyways. It's going to be okay. All of this is a way to say it sucks, but like there is a light at this end of the tunnel. And I know people are going to be upset that the Vikings aren't going to tank, but the Vikings weren't going to tank with McCarthy anyways, and they weren't going to tank with Darnold anyways. Like this doesn't change the fact that this is probably a 6 to 9 win football team.
Well, they weren't going to tank on purpose.
Right.
But they were maybe going to tank because of how difficult their schedule is.
Right.
Because of what their talent is. This is not disregarding that Sam Darnold could be good. And Justin Jefferson is amazing and has a catch radius of a garage door. And that the running back room is better than it's been in a long time. And that their edge rushers are in a really good place. They're going to have to score 49 points a game to win games because their D-backs are mangled. The defensive back, cornerback, safety room is old and mangy at this point. So they weren't going to tank on purpose because they didn't have to tank on purpose. It's going to be a very difficult season anyway. It wouldn't matter the team that they were rolling out. It wouldn't matter full strength. This team. This is a tough schedule, and you add a couple of injuries, which everybody gets. But when things are already going to be tough, and then you add in some of these injuries, or your number 2 wide receiver being out, and your defensive back room being a little weaker than probably you'd like, that's not a math equation that adds up to the playoffs anyway.
Right. And, this is back, to the defense. The cornerback room is bad. And we've talked about that. It's not that the Vikings came in and thought, boy, this room is going to really turn some heads. They were like, okay, the defense needed to be like built from the ground up. You can't fix it all in one offseason. We're going to put a ton of our attention this offseason into fixing the front 7. And they did. Dallas Turner looks like he's going to be a nice player. You have Jonathan Grenard, you have Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel. You've brought in all of this talent on the front 7 with the DL and the linebacking core to take pressure off that secondary, but also basically you said, let's worry about the front 7, because typically that's how you rebuild a defense. You start by getting the pass rushers, and then you finish it off by building your cornerback room. So next offseason was always the plan to address cornerbacks, and the Vikings were always expecting that to not be great. And like you talked about, this is baked into the cake. They're not a team. They might end up just not winning that many games because of the way that they are set up right now, regardless of whether Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy was the starting quarterback, outside of either one of them just becoming like Aaron Rodgers level elite of like lifting up the rest of your team. So
it doesn't mean they're not going to try to win. It doesn't mean the players aren't going to play hard. It doesn't mean Jefferson's not going to show up. It doesn't mean Kevin O'Connell is going to not try to win games. All of that stuff is going to happen. They just may not win a lot of games.
Right. And here's the thing. People like NFL tanking just doesn't really happen because guys want to keep their jobs. Like it doesn't matter if you go into a season and they're like, we're expecting to tank and get a high draft pick. But when you win 2 or 3 games all year long, if you don't get fired as the head coach, it's like you need to show drastic improvement immediately. Like all of this stuff, and Vikings ownership is not going to, and they're going to want a winner. So they are not going to, be okay with a tank. And the other thing is, and tanking just doesn't happen in the NFL. Like when people think of maybe Major League Baseball or the NBA, you don't You don't just go into a locker room, like you talked about, and tell the coaches and the players, hey, guys, lose this one today. We need that high draft pick so we can have somebody come in here and take your job next year. That's not how it happens. How you tank is you make the roster so terrible that they can only win games. The Chicago Bears tanked in 2022. You want to know why? Because at the trade deadline, they were like 3-4, and they traded about 4. There are only 4 good players that they had on the roster, and they didn't win a game the rest of the year. That's what tanking is.
Yep.
Tanking is getting like the Chicago White Sox, any player of value is just gone on that team. They're not going out there and telling their players, hey boys, let's lose one today. They just made the roster so bad that they have nothing else to do but lose. And despite all of the Vikings' flaws at the quarterback position, at interior offensive line, and in the cornerback room, as the Vikings have typically been, they're a team that's going to be good enough to win 5, 6, 7, 8 games. You're not going to get a top 3 pick,
which will miss the playoffs, but that's also okay. Whatever. We're talking now in circles about this. The bow on this, CJ, is that it's fine.
Right.
The point of this is how you build a defense is to start at the front 7 and worry about the back 7 after that, then you worry about that after that. If the point of drafting JJ McCarthy is to let him sit for a year, so that way at the start of the 2025 season, it's his and you're off and running, then you're still on pace for all of that. If getting 6 wins, you're getting 5 to 8 wins this year is the plan, that means you're picking 11th or 12th, and that means you're getting an unbelievable player, and they're always active with free agency and signing players. They've always made moves in the draft to get to a place where they feel like they can get a guy who's really going to help them, like every team does. I understand, but like this has always been, the 2024 season has always been about getting to the 2025 season, and all of the stuff that we're talking about changes nothing.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing. It's a lot of patience, but it's the important thing to talk about.
Been patient for a very long time.
Right.
They have to be patient again, and to be told to be patient, or in this instance, to be forced to be patient.
Right. But hey, look on the bright side. The Twins are on track to make the playoffs. So by the time they're done with that, it's like mid-October. The Timberwolves will be starting up again by that point. So you know what? Like it'll be okay. It'll be okay.
I'm of a believer. We've got Kaprizov for the Wild. We've got Buxton and Lewis and Correa and Pablo for the Twins. We've got JJ and JJ for the Vikings, and we've got, did I miss anybody? And we've got Ant, for like
Ant and Gobert and Cat. Like you have
weirdly, like star power wise, it's as good as it maybe ever been for Minnesota sports fans.
Right. So there's positivity. Look at us. That US Bank Stadium turf, though, to finish on one negative note, they remember it's new turf this year.
Heard another person.
Yeah, not off to a great start.
No.
It was supposed to be different. Like it's supposed to be a different kind of turf, all this stuff. Not ideal. All right. One last thing I want to wrap up the show with today, Corey. So have you done like any, I know you're in fantasy football leagues. Are you in one with like a group of buddies where you have like a penalty for the person who finishes last in the fantasy football league?
All right. I got a couple things to answer about this.
Okay.
One is, I think this will be the first year in more than 15 years, but not quite 20, that I will not be in any fantasy football leagues.
Really?
Yep. I've complained about being in a fantasy football league for a decade now. I just like, these are dumb. It's a waste of time. I don't follow it like I used to. So I just can't keep up with it. It was like, why am I putting $20 or whatever, whatever the league rate is.
Right.
Why am I'm just giving it to someone every single time. This is not that fun. And none of us could ever get together. At the most I was ever in was 3. But no matter the league I was in, we could never get together for the draft. And that was always the most fun thing about it. So it was always just, you'd hop online and you'd pick your players or whatever. And you'd try to talk a little smack in the text box that exists. It just wasn't that fun. Now, all that being said, There is one that I just haven't heard about yet that hasn't been set up yet. And I'm waiting for him to kind of a day before be like, you guys want to do this one more time? And I'll probably do it. But as of right now, I have no fantasy leagues that I am in for the first time since probably like 2006. And I'm thrilled about that possibility. And no, we never had anything for the losers. We would sometimes have, traveling trophies for the winners. And then obviously, we may or may not have exchanged money depending on the legality of that implication.
Yeah. So some people do, and some people really go overboard with some of these fantasy football loser things going on. So Corey, I present to you in Tampa, Florida, where good things always happen, this. Look at that. That's a dude. It's a dude who's dressed up as a clown, and he's at a Tampa Bay Rays game. A shirt that says "I suck at fantasy football," and I'm guessing, based on this video, it's part of the bet that he has to go find some good-looking girl in the stands and try and talk to her.
At least he has a shirt that says "I suck at fantasy football," and it's very clear as he approaches that nice young woman what's happening here. You know what I mean?
Right.
At least at least they don't have to drag her through the mud of this prank also.
Right. That guy probably explicitly went up to her and said, "Hey, I lost a bet. I have to talk to you for like 30 seconds. Can you just be a good sport and I can go wash this off and go home?"
That's amazing. He looks ridiculous.
Completely ridiculous.
Look at the normal conversation they're having. It's like, I think they might know each other, CJ. Look at how he's like, this is a very comfortable. And then I went to go buy oranges, but can you believe the price of oranges? So I had to skip the oranges this time because goodness great. And he's just like, yeah, I know.
I went to go buy a hot dog, but then I saw the line and how expensive that gets. And I just said, forget it.
This is those two people, they know each other.
It looks like you can kind of see her hand graze his shoulder a little bit. Either that, or that guy has the luckiest day of his life where apparently that girl is just very
well. Yeah. That's because she's a good looking woman too. Like his friends either completely hung him out to dry or he's congratulations, buddy.
What if that's what if this guy finally got the date of his dreams? He'd been trying to ask that girl out for so long.
The Tinder date.
And he finally got that also. I was going a different story of the guy finally gets this date he wants and their buddies say, nope, you have to do this as part of your fantasy football punishment from last year. Yeah. Or they're like, you have to match with somebody on social media and you have to go to that.
I like the concept of this was like his high school crush.
Uh-huh.
And 15 years later, she finally broke up with that dirtbag. Mm-hmm. and their class reunion was a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. They rekindle an old. I love this. They rekindled an old flame. Let's just something low stress. Let's just go to a Rays game or something like that. I'll bring a buddy. You bring a friend. It'll just be cool. We'll drink a Bud Light and a Corona.
Right.
And we'll just have a good time. And then all of his friends are like, you're dead. You're a dead man. You're dead man walking.
This could be a Netflix movie, Corey. We could write this. Netflix would totally take this movie.
Pretty funny.
If you write it. And this guy is not done his fantasy football punishment. First of all, he sucks at fantasy football. He's been he begrudgingly is in it every year. He gets last place and he just refuses to do all of the challenges. So the guy finally gets the girl of his dreams and his buddies in totality, take him to court and make him do this. We could set this up. We could get this off the ground.
All right. I've seen this video enough. By the way, Morning Sports Desk available on YouTube. Just search Hubbard Radio-Wadena. You'll be able to find Morning Sports Desk. It's they know each other.
They have to.
Look how comfortable they are. Because no one on CJ, put on that wig and put on all that makeup and go talk to anyone,
right?
Let alone a beautiful woman, and tell me how comfortable you're going to look. Less comfortable than that guy.
Yeah, it's not going to go great. Not going to go great. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Thursday, the 15th of August.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.